Picture this. You're lying in bed. The room is dark, the temperature is absolutely perfect, and your eyes are getting super heavy. You know the feeling, right? You are finally, blissfully just about to drift off into a peaceful sleep. And then, out of nowhere, in the dead silence of the night, your brain basically taps you on the shoulder and whispers, "Hey, remember that incredibly embarrassing thing you did exactly 7 years ago?" Just like that, your peace is shattered. Your heart rate spikes. You might even physically squeeze your eyes shut or wince into your pillow, completely paralyzed by a memory that literally nobody else on the planet probably even remembers. Well, welcome to the Midnight Cringe. Today in this explainer, we're going to look at the fascinating psychology behind why our minds do this to us, and more importantly, how to finally make it stop. Okay, let's dive into this because, well, we all have that mental highlight reel of absolute awkwardness. You know the hits. It's enthusiastically waving back at someone across the street only to suddenly realize they were waving at the person directly behind you. It's hitting send on a text message and immediately realizing it went to the exact wrong group chat. Oh man, it's that slight, ungraceful trip over a completely flat sidewalk in public, followed by that classic, "I totally meant to do that," jog. Or, my personal favorite, when the waiter sets down your delicious hot meal, flashes a warm smile and says, "Enjoy your food," and you confidently reply, "You too." These are tiny, fleeting moments, right? Just little blips on the radar of a long life. Yet, somehow, your brain treats them like absolute, unmitigated disasters. I mean, why does your mind randomly ambush you with these highly embarrassing memories? Why does the memory of a totally harmless slip up from years ago hit your nervous system with the exact same intensity as a genuine, real time threat? Well, to understand this bizarre glitch in human programming, we actually have to travel way, way back. The answer isn't that you are uniquely awkward. The answer is evolutionary psychology. What we're dealing with here is a deeply ingrained survival mechanism known as negativity bias. This basically brilliantly illustrates how our minds were originally built. See, your brain is naturally designed to remember emotionally intense or painful experiences far more strongly than neutral or even positive ones. Think about it from the perspective of early humans living thousands of years ago. Back then, small social mistakes meant literal danger. You embarrass yourself, you alienate your peers. You get rejected by your tight-knit tribe, you get cast out. And, well, being cast out meant you were entirely on your own in a very dangerous wild. It was literally a matter of life and death. So your brain recorded those painful, awkward moments with a giant red warning label, storing them as absolutely crucial data for your ongoing survival. Now, obviously, life is drastically different today. Saying the wrong thing in a Zoom meeting is definitely not going to get you banished to the wilderness to fend off saber-toothed tigers alone. But your primitive hardware hasn't fully caught up to modern society yet. Your brain still reacts as if these small social missteps are monumental threats to your very existence. That is precisely why these memories feel so incredibly powerful and visceral. Here is the beautifully ironic reality, though. Your brain actually thinks it's protecting you. By dragging up the memory of you calling your teacher mom in the third grade, your brain is just trying to forcefully remind you not to repeat that mistake, keeping you safely inside the tribe by making you utterly cringe. But here is the funny, honestly liberating truth about all of this. Most people barely remember your awkwardness at all. In psychology, there's a term for this illusion that everyone is watching us. It's called the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is our natural tendency to believe that other people are noticing our actions, our flaws, and our mistakes far, far more than they actually are. We walk through life feeling like there is a literal spotlight beaming down on us, illuminating every tiny fumble for an eager audience. Let's look at this contrast, because it's pretty eye-opening. What you think people remember is a high-definition, multi-angle replay of your most awkward moment, heavily scrutinized by everyone who is in the room. What they actually remember? Almost nothing. Think about your own life for a second. Can you quickly recall every deeply awkward or embarrassing thing your best friend did 5 years ago?
What about your coworkers, your classmates? Probably not. Why? Because you aren't thinking about them. You are entirely too busy obsessing over your own highlight reel of mistakes. Everyone is the main character in their own story, dealing with their own internal panic.
So here is the anchor you need to hold on to. Nobody remembers as much as you think. Let that provide a genuine sense of calm relief. We are, without a doubt, our own harshest critics. The cashier at the grocery store forgot your awkward interaction the very second you walked out the sliding glass doors. The strangers on the train who saw you trip, they went back to scrolling on their phones instantly. You are carrying around a heavy box of memories that everyone else threw away years ago. Now, that explains why we hold on to the memories. But it brings us to a very important question. Why is the timing so specific? Like, why does this mental ambush almost exclusively happen at 11:30 p.m. when you are desperately trying to get some rest? Why doesn't your brain remind you of their awkward high school presentation while you're just eating lunch on a Tuesday? Let's shift gears and look at the environmental factors that trigger this uniquely late-night phenomenon. It all comes down to how we process our days. During daylight hours, your brain is highly occupied. It's constantly distracted. You have work tasks, school, commuting, phone notifications, podcasts, conversations, just a constant stream of background noise. Your brain is playing defense against 1,000 different stimuli. But at night, the noise disappears. The emails stop, the notifications pause. You lie down, and suddenly, there is this massive, quiet void. Without the external world demanding your attention, your brain automatically shifts into reflection mode. All of those unfinished emotions, underlying worries, and completely random awkward memories that were suppressed by the noise of the day, they finally have the silent space they need to float right to the surface. And when they float up, what do? Well, we react. Remember that negativity bias we talked about? Well, it creates a pretty vicious cycle. Strong emotion equals stronger memory storage. Every single time you lie in bed and physically wince, every time you groan out loud or shake your head at that old memory, you are sending a jolt of emotion right through your nervous system. Your brain logs that reaction. It sees you stressing out and says, wow, this file still generates a massive emotional response. This must still be incredibly vital for our survival. So by cringing at the memory, you are accidentally instructing your brain to keep it in the active rotation. You are basically telling your mind to bring it up again later. So the crucial point is breaking the cycle. How to stop the midnight cringe. Here is your 4-step defense plan. Step 1, stop fighting it. When the memory hits, just acknowledge it calmly. Say to yourself, yep, that happened. It was awkward, and that's okay. Fighting the thought honestly just makes it stronger. Step 2, reframe the memory. We'll touch more on this in a second, but you gotta stop seeing it as a fatal flaw. Step 3, reduce the emotional intensity. When you feel that cringe coming on, ask yourself a logical grounding question. Will this specific moment matter in 5 years? 99.9% of the time, the answer is no. This starves the memory of the emotional reaction it needs to survive. And step 4, actively avoid late-night overthinking. Recognize that your brain is highly irrational and emotional when it is fatigued. A problem that feels like an absolute catastrophe at 2 a.m. often feels like a minor blip by 9 a.m. Just don't trust your tired brain's assessment of your social worth. Let's look a little closer at step 2, because this is perhaps the most powerful shift in perspective you can make. It is completely normal to hate the feeling of cringing at your former self, but think about what that reaction actually means. Cringing at the past is a sign of growth, not failure. If you look back at something you did 3 years ago and think, wow, that was a terrible way to handle that, it means you are no longer the person who would handle it that way. You've evolved. You have better social awareness, deeper empathy, and more maturity now than you did back then. The cringe is simply the growing pain of self-awareness. And above all else, when you are lying in the dark, wrestling with your own mind over a clumsy sentence or a missed social cue, remember the simplest, most deeply comforting truth of all. You are human. And being human is an inherently messy, unpolished, trial and error experience. Literally every single person you admire, every person you find cool or composed, has a mental catalog of deeply embarrassing moments that keep them up at night too. Being awkward sometimes isn't proof that you're fundamentally broken. It is the ultimate proof that you are participating in life just like the rest of us. So, the next time your brain decides to play the worst hits of your social life just as you're falling asleep, don't panic, don't wince, just smile a little at your brain's clumsy attempt to protect you. Because if the world isn't holding on to your mistakes, if everyone else has already completely forgotten your awkward moments, isn't it finally time you forgave yourself for them too? Think about that tonight. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you get some very peaceful, uninterrupted sleep.